Hello folks, you're watching Deuce. Do you guys reload for 308? You should. So if you answered no, this is the video that's going to convince you otherwise, because you really should be reloading 308, and I'm going to tell you why. I'm not only going to go over the reasons why you should reload 308, I'm going to go over all the materials you're going to need, all the presses. I'm going to go over the budget options, which is usually what I'm at, and the most expensive options for all the gear you're going to need. I'm also going to go over all the materials you're going to need, such as gunpowder, primers, bullets, and brass. One of the reasons why I have a hair up my ass about reloading 308 suddenly is because I looked through my safe and I realized I had not shot my M1A rifle in several years, which made me very sad because I bought this in the 1990s. Yes, during the assault weapons ban, I was able to buy this. There was some caveats to it, of course, that they had to trim off, like the flash hider and bayonet lug. I've shot the crap out of this thing, but now I haven't shot it very much because 308 is just too dang expensive to shoot that often. But that changes today. I think 308 is the easiest rifle cartridge to learn how to reload full-size, full-power rifle cartridges. And once you get your setup for 308 and you get your confidence up for reloading that 308, then you can step up to the big boys, the real expensive stuff like 300 Win Mag, because it doesn't cost much more money to reload 300 Win Mag as it is a 308. A 30 caliber bullet is still a 30 caliber bullet. You might use a little bit more gunpowder in that 300 Win Mag. Actually, you should be using a little more gunpowder in that 300 Win Mag. But other than that, the primer is the same. The brass is still recycled and cleaned the same way. It's just a different set of dies. Before you start reloading, you're going to have to build your reloading arsenal of tools. And the center of that arsenal of tools, or if you're British, your kit, is going to be your reloading press. And this is the press that presses together the bullet in its final form. If you are a pistol reloader, or you don't reload anything at all and you want to get started with rifle ammo such as 308, I highly recommend getting a single stage press. This is the classic press from Lee. I'm not even sure if they make this version anymore. They probably do. I do recommend, if you're going to be reloading larger caliber rifles such as 308, 30-06, 300 Win Mag, to get the full enclosed single stage press, not that kind of C press that Lee does sell. Don't get that. This would be what I consider the budget option. Now, if you want to splurge, RCBS Rock Chucker. That is the epitome of buy it for life. And of course, you can buy a turret press or a full progressive press that can handle rifle rounds. I do not recommend those, especially if you are new to reloading rifle rounds, and you will always have a need for a single stage press. So I always recommend start out with a single stage press because you will never outgrow it. You will add to it, but you will never get rid of your single stage press as long as you reload ammo. Once you got your press figured out, then you got to get a set of dies. And the dies are these little guys that sit down in the press where the bullet, the cartridge, all that good stuff goes into, and it presses it together. So this one reshapes the piece of brass back to its factory form, and that little pin right there pops out the old primer. And this die seats the new bullet onto your prepared case. You've already put a new primer in it, you've already put new gunpowder in it, you put a bullet on top of that and you force it up in there, and it squeezes down the bullet into the neck of the cartridge and then squeezes the neck together a little bit and crimps it in. Optional is the Lee Factory Crimp die. I like this. It really does help keep things very consistent, especially when you're shooting something that's semi-automatic in 308. Bullets get jostled around a lot, and if you got that factory crimp on there, it really does crimp the bullet down really well without distorting the bullet or the piece of brass. I like that. It's not necessary though. When it comes to brands of dies, I have a ton of Lee Precision dies. They were by far the cheapest die set out there for many, many years, if not decades. But lately, they've crept up in price, and RCBS has pretty much stayed the same price. One thing to make note of, though, is that the Lee Precision set of dies are the only dies out there that automatically come with a shell holder for your press, which these are all universal. All the different shell holders will work at all the different presses. But they cost extra if you go with RCBS or Hordney or any of the other options out there. And speaking of shell holders, you're going to want one of these. It is very cheap. It's actually cheaper to buy this from the store than it is to print one off in your 3D printer. This is just leftovers from my last batch I made here, but this side has been resized because the primer's been pushed out. They've not been trimmed yet. And this side has been trimmed and it's got a new primer in there ready for new gunpowder and a new bullet. So you've already got your press, you already got your dies. That's the most expensive part of your reloading setup. You've already used this right now to do a whole batch of resized 308. So what's next is to trim that piece of brass and process it to be ready for powder and a new bullet. Unfortunately, trimming brass is the most hated part of the reloading process. I know I hate it. Due to that hatred, a lot of companies have gone out of their way to re-engineer the wheel on this and try to come up with a better mousetrap when it comes to trimming brass. The cheapest one that works pretty well is Lee. And basically, this is just a 223 because I don't have a 308 version of this, but you basically stick the piece of brass in this little guy here. It holds it. You got a pointy thing here with a cutter on the end, and you just twist until it is trimmed to whatever predetermined length this happens to be from Lee. Many years ago, a company called Trim It, which I don't know what happened to this company, if they're still around or not, but they came up with a way to trim your brass by using a electric drill. And you basically, it goes off the shoulder once you resize your brass, and it trims it just that quickly. Now, I don't think Trim It is still in business, but there are a couple of different companies that make almost this exact product. So take a look at them. You know, I've liked them. It works, but they're kind of fiddly. Once you trim that brass, you're going to end up with a lot of burrs and a lot of issues right there at the neck because that is sharp now and not conducive to proper reloading. So you're going to need a deburr and chamfering tool here, and basically part of it goes inside the mouth of the brass, part of it goes on the outside, and you end up with a clean factory-like edge on the end of that neck. You will also need a set of calipers. I've had these, I bought these off Amazon in 2017, and they are still rock solid. I've changed the battery out a few times, but the thing is still rock solid. I have had no issues with this thing whatsoever. It is very accurate. For what we're doing here, you do not need Mitutoyo calipers. You just really don't need that kind of accuracy. You don't need to measure something to the 10,000th of an inch. In the very first comment, in the comment section below the video, I will have links to everything I'm talking about here. So you don't need to be sitting here scrolling around with a pen and paper trying to keep up with me here. The amount of powder you're putting into your cartridge is determined by many factors. Number one is what the cartridge is. Is it a 308? Is it 30-06? Is it 6.5 Creedmoor? Also the bullet weight. Different weights of bullets require a different weight of gunpowder. Also the type of gunpowder. CFE 223 can be used in 308. So can the ball match. What is it called? Stay ball match from Winchester. Also 308, very, very good. And Varget, also good in 308, along with a couple of dozen other powder options that I don't have available offhand. Now, you don't need to be an alchemist or a wizard to figure out what kind of gunpowder to use or how much of that particular gunpowder to use. That data is already out there. Basically, what I would recommend, go to your local gun store that sells reloading gear and gunpowder and figure out what you can get. Make a note of it, all the different ones that you know of that are meant for rifle applications such as 308 or whatever you're going to be reloading. Look and see what's available locally, because you have to pay a hazmat fee to get this stuff shipped to you. And if you're experimenting, you're not going to be buying 8 pounds of gunpowder at a time. That's several $100s. You're not going to do that right off the bat. You're going to go to a gun store and buy 1 pound, test it out, see if you like it, see if it works with your equipment and your setup and your temperature range that you're going to be shooting at, all that good stuff first. Then once you get settled into a powder, then you buy the 8 pound jug or the case of it or whatever is the cheapest, biggest bulk buy you can get away with. And then go to the website of whatever gunpowder you're looking at. In this case is Hodgdon. Well, in this case it's actually Winchester, which is owned by Hodgdon Powders. And in the case of Hodgdon, they even have a load specifically for the M1A. It's called 308 service rifle, but it's meant for the M1A rifle. They also have one for the M1 Garand, which I'll put that link up here if you ever want to reload for your M1 Garand. So you bought your gunpowder and you have the data of how much gunpowder to use. How do you measure it? Well, you buy yourself a scale. I highly recommend these guys here, the electronic scales. While a scale like this is what I recommend for the budget option, it works fine. I used this one for years. It was perfectly fine and dandy. It's just slow. So I did splurge last year and got myself one of these, which really took out some guesswork and sped up my reloading dramatically. And the last few things you're going to need is, number one, a bullet puller for when you make a mistake. Not if, but when you make a mistake. You're going to want to reclaim that bullet, that brass, that powder. You'll also need a funnel of some sort to get the powder from your scale to inside of your case. You can go with something really nice from RCBS or something cheap but usable from Lee. If you're using your ammo in something that's semi-automatic versus bolt action, I do recommend buying an ammo checker. This has basically the chamber of 6 different common cartridges in it, and Winchester 308, you check that out, and if it's flush with the bottom, that means that it should, if your rifle's up to spec as well, it should chamber without an issue. Now let's talk about all the different components you're going to need to reload your ammo. That is your brass, your gunpowder, your primers, and your bullets. Where to get them, what to get, and what to expect when you're looking for them. The brass, you pick it up at the range. Go to the range, shoot your 22 or whatever you have down there, look around and just scrounge. Scrounge and scrounge and scrounge. You get that brass for free. There's also a few websites out there that sell used processed 308 brass. Can't tell you where I buy this stuff in the video, but if you go down in the comment section and go ahead and ask that question, I'm sure somebody will probably lead you in the right direction. Now the gunpowder, I already mentioned, go down to your local gun store and shop around for things that are meant for whatever caliber you're reloading, because you want to stay local if you can. Primers are typically sold in either this 100-round pack right here or a larger box of 10 of those, so you have 1,000 primers in that one box. Now, unfortunately, primers fall under the same hazmat rules as gunpowder, so it's expensive to have these shipped to your house. Go to the same gun store you bought your gunpowder at, and you buy their primers. It really doesn't matter what brand of primer you use for the most part, as long as you get the right size. 308 is going to have large rifle primers. You have large rifle primers and small rifle primers. You got large pistol primers and small pistol primers, and that's about it for US made ammo. You go overseas, you have those Bourdain primers. Don't worry about those. That's not going to be your problem for you. Just remember, while you're developing a load for your rifle, use the same primer across the board on everything, so then that stays consistent. And lastly, the bullets. Now the bullets can be super cheap, especially if you make them yourself, which is a whole nother hobby that I do not recommend starting out with. I do make my own bullets for 300 Blackout here. Got about a half a can of this left here, but basically that is melted wheel weight lead that I formed into a 230 grain bullet, powder coated it, super cheap, super awesome, not super accurate. Even with my experience of 20 years of casting my own bullets, I'm still not great at it. I'm okay. It's good enough for my needs. But if you want something that's possibly very accurate and able to be shot at supersonic speeds, you're going to need a jacketed bullet, nothing that's cast lead. In order to reload 30 caliber cheaply, you got to go with either factory seconds from different websites, or you're going to need to go with a no-name brand or an off-brand or something that was damaged in transit, so then the boxes are all shattered and you end up with just a bag of bullets. Real quick tip about gunpowder amounts, how much to use when you're given a range, because when you look up what gunpowder to use and how much of it to use, they're going to give you a range of gunpowder. Now 308, you're going to have anywhere between, I don't know, let's say 40 grains all the way to, I think 50 is way too much, but you're going to see a scale of some sort. And let's just say 308, depending on the type of rifle you're shooting, the weight of the bullet, the type of powder, you could be looking at between 40 and 50 grains of powder for that particular charge. New people to reloading will be like, well, I want the maximum charge. I want a very powerful round. And that's great and all. The bullet leaves the barrel screaming, and it's not as accurate, and it wears out your gun faster. There is no need to go max anything when you're reloading your own ammo. You want to actually hit the target before you try to obliterate it. And I have found over the years and years of reloading that typically you find your halfway point just south of halfway between the minimum and maximum has almost always been X marks the spot when it comes to accuracy for me. So that's where I start when I'm developing a load. I figure out the halfway point, go down a little bit, and that's typically where I find a really good beginnings of a very accurate load. Now, while developing for 5.56, I found out that it was just over the halfway point that that became the most accurate round for that particular bullet. But typically, it's right around the midpoint between minimum and maximum that you're going to find the best accuracy. And when you have a bunch of ammo to test out with different powder charges in them, you can buy a bunch of fancy boxes like this and use those to separate the different powder charges. I don't recommend that. Ziploc baggies. Remember, next week is going to be my Black Friday firearm special, so stay tuned for that one because it will not only go over a bunch of really cool deals for firearms, but I'll also be looking for deals for your reloading needs as well. Well, guys, that's for me today. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give me a like, go subscribe. A lot more is on the way. If you have any comments, questions, show ideas, leave that down in the comments down below. I'll try to answer as many of those as possible. And as always, you guys have a great day. See ya.